I'm Renee Richardson from Metallica's All Within My Hands. Most of you know the foundation was started in 2017 by the members and management of Metallica. And even before the foundation was started, a very near and dear program to all of the band members was helping to feed people. In years from the beginning of when they were touring, they would give back to food banks across the country. So when the band created All Within My Hands, it was a natural fit to reach out to Feeding America and develop a partnership with Feeding America. So I'm very happy to introduce Lauren Vedran. She's VP of Corporate Partnerships at Feeding America. And as I mentioned, a relationship that we've built over the years through fundraisers that we've done, through Day of Service. We've come out to Feeding America food banks with all of the Metallica fans. So I thought it would be nice to bring you in, I should say we, because it was the greater board of directors that said, we'd like to hear from the folks that we've partnered with and find out just how COVID-19 has changed the way you do things, and just give our fans and donors an update on how things are going for Feeding America.
So Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks. There are 200 member food banks across the country, and together they're responsible for serving every county in the United States and Puerto Rico. So we really do cover the entire country and take our responsibility quite seriously to make sure that we're there to feed people struggling with hunger day in and day out.
Now, we have both, Metallica anyway, as mentioned, through Day of Service and bringing fans together. We've gone out to individual food banks around the country. But then we also, when we make a donation like we did with these past Metallica Monday shows, we were able to donate X amount of dollars. I think it was over $170,000 to the Feeding America organization. What's the difference and how does that work so people understand a little bit?
Feeding America is the national organization that supports the 200 food banks on the ground. And so our charge is really to make sure that food banks are well resourced and they're able to serve their communities. So a lot of the work that we do is, for instance, sourcing food at a national level and then making that available to all 200 members on the ground. That's to help supplement what they're doing locally. The same thing goes for dollars raised. We distribute an incredible amount of money directly to our network, really to help them with general operating grants, with special programs that feed children and seniors. And so when contributions come to us, we're really taking a look at how can we make the best use of these dollars. In some instances, that might be through a food purchase program that's going to help members across the country get access to things like fresh produce that might not be available in their backyards. In other instances, and this was really the case with COVID, we pooled grant contributions from all of our donors together and then used data to determine how those dollars were going to flow to the community, really looking at where the virus was having a disproportionate impact, where unemployment was disproportionately high, and making sure that we were equitably distributing resources.
Tell us a little bit about where we were in terms of food insecurity pre-COVID and where we are now, just to get people an idea of just how drastically things have changed for the need.
You know, the reality of hunger in America is that it was a significant problem prior to COVID. So pre-pandemic, there were already 37 million Americans who didn't know where their next meal was coming from. When COVID happened, we really saw our entire model just get flipped on its head. So almost overnight, we saw this incredible surge in demand. So because of rising unemployment and school closures, we estimate that there could be 17 million more people facing hunger. That's on top of those 37 million Americans that I mentioned earlier. So our prediction about the need is that 54 million people in this country could be struggling with hunger as a result of the pandemic. I want to point out that annually we relied on about 2 million volunteers to make this operation go round. So we have a really significant donated labor force, if you will. And we also rely primarily on donated food. And we started to see some really scary trends, like a fall off in volunteers, right? People were wisely staying home owing to public health measures, but that impacted the way we get our work done. So we saw a fall off in volunteers, and we also saw our traditional food sources really sort of dry up, right? So people were going out and purchasing more food. That excess in the system that we had come to rely on wasn't there. So we had to look in different places to get the food. And quite honestly, it's why the support we receive from donors like you all is so important to us, because it gives us and it gives our food banks, importantly, the flexibility to be able to respond to those changing circumstances.
We saw it here. A couple of us from Metallica headquarters went out and volunteered at it wasn't set up to be a drive-through yet, but people could come and everybody was standing far away from each other in San Francisco. And it was so different, only maybe 20 volunteers were able to work at any given time because we all need to give space. What would you say that at this moment right now, Feeding America needs most? Volunteers, money, food, all of the above?
The answer is truly all of the above. I will hold up both the need for continued funding as well as the volunteer piece of things. More than half of our network is currently reporting that they still need volunteers. And so, to the extent that folks are comfortable and healthy and the local food bank is ready to receive your support, we encourage you to get out there and volunteer. The other continued need, and it's a need we will have for the foreseeable future, is really just for continued financial support. And right now, that's the best way to help us because of that flexibility factor. And so it would allow for food purchases, but maybe also things like PPE for volunteers and food bank staff. It really sort of allows us to be nimble while the environment around us is changing so frequently.
On a positive note, what do you guys have coming up? What are some things you're excited about? I mean, I know, there's still people with food insecurities. We acknowledge that, and we're doing our best to help mitigate that. But certainly have to stay positive during these times. And what can you share with us to end things on a positive note?
I'm happy you asked, because right around the corner we have Hunger Action Month, which is an annual month-long event. It takes place in September every year, and that's really a moment for us to collectively turn up the volume on the issue of hunger. And so we really believe that there's a role for everyone to play in supporting our mission in whatever capacity works best for them. And so reaching out to your local food bank, or maybe something just as simple as sharing some social media content that you might find on our page or your local food bank's page, just to get the message out there.
Thank you, Lauren. This was such a pleasure to meet you and talk to you. And our Metallica fans, they love getting behind a good cause. So you have a good group of people standing up for you out there. And I appreciate you taking the time today.
Thank you so much.